Have you ever wondered what your life will be like in your 80s? Are you worried about how to maintain your health, your happiness, or even your independence as you age? You're not alone. Many people focus only on physical health as they grow older, but is that enough? Recent studies show that nearly half of older adults experience symptoms of depression, and focusing solely on health can leave you struggling in other areas of life. The truth is, your 80s can be a time of great joy and fulfillment if you approach it the right way, but without the proper mindset and preparation, it can also bring unexpected challenges. In this video, I'm going to reveal the truth about what happens when you hit your 80s, and it might surprise you. From the realities of sleep changes and how to handle them, to the complexities of relationships with your children and how they might affect your future, I'll show you how to stay healthy, happy, and independent. By the end of this video, you'll not only feel more at ease about the future, but also armed with the practical steps to make your 80s the best years of your life. If you are not subscribed, I recommend subscribing and activating the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support means a lot to me, and if you enjoyed this video, you can help me continue spreading the valuable lessons by liking and sharing it. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. First, if you can't sleep, you don't have to force yourself to. As you grow older, one of the most frustrating realities is the gradual decline in your ability to sleep well. The peaceful, uninterrupted slumber that once came so easily seems to slip through your fingers as the years go by. For many elderly people, this becomes a nightly struggle, and all too often, they turn to sleep aids in the hope of finding relief. But here's the thing. Sleep aids are designed to help you fall asleep, not to keep you asleep. If you wake up in the middle of the night, those pills do little to solve the issue. Worse still, they can leave you feeling groggy and disoriented when you wake up, only to face another long, restless night ahead. There's also a physical toll to consider. As you get older, your legs may become weaker, and getting out of bed in the middle of the night can become a daunting challenge. The risk of falls and fractures increases, and in some cases, it can even lead to the need for a cane or other mobility aids. So, while sleep aids might seem like an easy solution, they come with a host of potential side effects that aren't worth the risk. No one dies from insomnia, after all. It's a temporary inconvenience, not a life-threatening condition. Instead of forcing yourself to sleep at night when your body refuses, it's important to shift your perspective. If you can't sleep when you lie down, don't get frustrated or anxious. Just let it go. It's okay. The pressure to sleep at a specific time can make the problem worse. Sometimes, it's better to embrace the fact that your body's sleep cycle has changed. Allow yourself to sleep during the day if that's when you feel tired. For those of us over 80, rigid schedules no longer serve us. We need to listen to our bodies and rest when we feel the need, whether it's in the middle of the day or the middle of the night. Think of sleep as something like herbal medicine, gentle, natural, and unique to each person. What works for one may not work for another. Just as some people find relief with a particular herb or remedy, others may need a different approach to sleep. The key is to relax into it, accepting that sleep is a process that helps you restore and recharge, something that can be done at your own pace and in your way. Rather than battling your body, trust it. Take comfort in the idea that rest, in whatever form it takes, is doing its job, even if it's not what you expected. Second, you might want to remarry, but your children don't allow it. As we grow older, we often face the delicate and emotionally complex issue of remarriage, something that, unfortunately, can be clouded by the presence or absence of money. If you are fortunate enough to have assets, the situation becomes even more tangled, as your children may oppose your desire to remarry, fearing that the inheritance they hope to receive might be at risk. But if you have little to no wealth, your children might instead express their relief, happy that you found someone to share your later years with and provide you with companionship and support, free from the financial burden that might otherwise weigh on you. It can be heartbreaking, though, to realize that even though your children may seem to bless your remarriage, they might not fully understand your true motives. Deep down, you might be hoping for a companion who can help you shoulder the emotional and physical challenges of aging. Someone who can stand by you when your health begins to decline and you need more assistance than ever before. And yet, in many cases, despite these sincere desires for companionship and practical help, you may find yourself hesitant to speak these things aloud, fearing that it will be seen as an inconvenience or a selfish desire. I've encountered so many elderly people who are caught in the painful limbo of wanting a fresh start, yet feeling bound by the expectations and concerns of their children. I've seen the heartbreak that comes when children, even with the best intentions, become more concerned about preserving an inheritance than supporting their parents' emotional well-being. It's especially tragic because, in many cases, this can lead to a lifetime of loneliness and regret for the older parent. In the earlier years of life, say until your early 70s, it's still possible to convince your children that remarriage could be a source of joy and comfort, but as you enter your 80s, those obstacles grow more insurmountable. Your children might resist, their objections becoming stronger, and eventually, you may be forced to abandon the dream of companionship in your twilight years. What happens next is a lonely, often painful reality. You live alone, your days filled with longing for someone to talk to, someone to care for you, but the years slip away, and with them, your health. Eventually, you find yourself too frail to care for yourself, reliant on others, whether family or caregivers, to help meet your most basic needs. But even in this vulnerable state, you might not find the care you deserve. Often, children who once opposed your remarriage don't step up to provide the caregiving you desperately need. When you're gone, the very same children who didn't want you to remarry might find themselves entangled in inheritance disputes. These are the kinds of conflicts that tear families apart, even when the money at stake is relatively small. It's not the amount that matters, it's the underlying human emotions that rise to the surface when money is involved. I've seen families, once close-knit, slowly disintegrate after the death of a parent, all because of financial disagreements. It's a tragic irony. Siblings who grew up side by side, sharing memories, experiences, and love, find themselves divided by something as cold and transactional as money. The warmth of family can so easily turn to ice when greed and entitlement seep in. And so, while it might seem tempting to leave behind an inheritance for your children, I can't help but feel that it's far more meaningful to pass on something deeper. The good habits, the lessons, the values that made you who you are. If I could offer any advice, it would be this. Instead of focusing on what material wealth you can leave behind, focus on cultivating relationships and nurturing the bonds that will carry you through your old age with love and dignity. In the end, the things that truly matter, the things that will provide warmth and comfort in those later years, are the intangible gifts you leave behind. The habits of kindness, understanding, and compassion will always outshine any inheritance. Third, don't be ashamed of using incontinence products. It's a natural part of aging that many of us, unfortunately, have to face, but it does not define who we are or diminish our worth. Yes, urinary issues can be uncomfortable and even a bit distressing at first, but once we come to terms with it, we realize there's no reason to let something so trivial hold us back. You're not living just to worry about your bladder. I believe that acknowledging and accepting the need for incontinence products can be an empowering step towards embracing life fully, without limitations. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that this challenge signifies the end of your vitality. But the truth is, there are countless remarkable individuals, from top CEOs to talented musicians and visionary film directors, who wear incontinence products. They've achieved greatness, not despite their condition, but alongside it. These products aren't a symbol of weakness. They're simply a tool that enables you to continue thriving, uninterrupted. By choosing to use incontinence products, you free yourself from the constant worry of urination and regain the power to focus on what truly matters. Your work, your passions, and your relationships all become more accessible when you're no longer held back by a basic bodily function. It's important to remember that just because one aspect of your body may be less reliable, the rest of you, your intelligence, creativity, energy, and heart are still as vibrant and capable as ever. Life doesn't end when one part of you changes. In fact, it can open doors to even more possibilities. Instead of thinking of it as a sign of decline, see it for what it truly is: a chance to adapt, to grow in new ways, and to have confidence that the essence of who you are remains unchanged. Embrace this moment. You are not defined by the limitations of the body. You are defined by your strength, resilience, and the way you choose to continue living with grace. Don't let something like incontinence rob you of your joy or your potential. Life still has so much to offer, and you are worthy of it all. Fourth, you will face the death of friends. As you grow older, one of the most profound and heart-wrenching experiences you will inevitably face is the loss of those closest to you. Friends, companions, perhaps even a spouse. The emptiness that follows can feel unbearable, especially if you are deeply dependent on these relationships. The sudden silence left behind by someone you've shared so much of your life with can be overwhelming. It's a grief unlike any other, and in those moments, it feels as though a part of you is irrevocably gone. But what can you do in the face of such a loss? It's a cruel reality, and though it might sound harsh, you must find a way to steel your heart. No amount of wishing or hoping will bring the deceased back. It's a bitter truth, one that we all must learn to accept eventually. And yet, in this harshness lies a strange kind of freedom. You must push through the sorrow and take the next step forward. What does this look like? It may seem impossible at first, but you can choose to seek new relationships, new connections, and new joys. It won't replace the ones you've lost, but it can help you rediscover meaning in your days. In the most unexpected of places, there are small sparks of hope. For example, if you observe the younger generation, you might notice how many of them have embraced a lifestyle of solitude, one that, to them, isn't lonely but free. They've found comfort in being alone, often choosing to immerse themselves in games or scrolling through their smartphones, living in a kind of peaceful detachment. At first, it might seem sad, but upon closer reflection, there is a lesson to be learned. By shifting your perspective, from viewing solitude as a painful reminder of what's gone to seeing it as a kind of freedom, you might find a sense of peace you never expected. This shift in mindset can be incredibly powerful. It's not easy, of course, and the loneliness can be suffocating at times, but there's a quiet joy that comes from learning to cherish your own company. I recall an elderly friend of mine who, after his wife passed away, was unsure of what to do with his days. He felt adrift, lost without her presence. But then, he discovered Netflix. At first, it seemed like a small thing, just a distraction. But slowly, it became something more. With each show, he could lose himself in a story without having to worry about what his wife might want to watch. He could watch when he wanted, sleep when he wanted, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of control over his time. It wasn't the same as having her beside him, of course, but it brought him a quiet comfort he hadn't known he was missing. This simple act of watching movies at his own pace was a reminder that, even in the darkest moments, there are ways to find peace, sometimes in the most unexpected places. The philosopher Arthur Schopenhauer once reflected on solitude, saying that humans often seek out the company of others not because we genuinely enjoy it, but because we cannot bear being alone with ourselves. There's truth in this. Our society has long taught us that to be alone is to be incomplete, to be somehow lacking. But perhaps the key to truly embracing old age lies in learning to be comfortable in our presence. Perhaps, in this strange new chapter of life, the greatest freedom we can find is not in the company of others, but in the quiet of our solitude. It's a terrifying thought, and yet there's a deep, serene beauty in it once we allow ourselves to accept it. Fifth, even if you develop dementia, you still retain life wisdom. It's heartbreaking how many people still hold on to the outdated, cruel stereotype that once someone develops dementia, they lose all sense of who they are or what they know. It's so easy to dismiss someone as not knowing anything because their memory is fading, but in doing so, we overlook something deeply valuable: the life lessons they've accumulated over decades. There's this deeply painful ignorance surrounding dementia, and it can cause so much harm. Take, for instance, an elderly grandfather who starts showing signs of dementia. His family, out of genuine concern, might assume that he doesn't understand anything anymore, treating him as though he's completely out of touch with reality. But in truth, he understands far more than they give him credit for. It's not that he's lost his mind, he's simply struggling to communicate in the ways that once came so naturally. How many families unintentionally strip away the dignity and autonomy of their elderly loved ones by assuming they can't contribute, when in fact, they still have so much to offer? It's devastating to watch this happen, especially when someone like a grandmother is prevented from doing what she can still do. She may be told by well-meaning family members or caregivers that certain things are too dangerous for her to handle, simply because of her age or the presence of dementia. Yet, many of these tasks, small, everyday things, she could still do on her own with minimal assistance. To see someone's independence stripped away, not because they are physically incapable but because others assume they are, is heartbreaking. The real tragedy here is that some of these people who have worked, raised families, and lived through decades of experiences, might lose their remaining abilities simply because of one word from a doctor or a family member's decision. This, to me, feels like such a cruel fate. The end of a life lived with so much wisdom and hard work, reduced to nothing more than a series of assumptions about what someone can or cannot do based on age alone. It's not only tragic, it's deeply unfair. Yes, as we age, some of our physical and mental functions may indeed decline. Our bodies may not move with the same fluidity, and our minds may take longer to recall certain memories. But to assume that wisdom fades in tandem with these physical changes is an insult to the person we've become over the years. We must never forget that wisdom, the kind that comes from living fully, from experiencing joy, pain, love, loss, and everything in between, doesn't just vanish because the brain struggles to keep up with time. On the contrary, some aspects of life, like counseling or guiding others, can become even clearer with age. I've seen it firsthand. Older people, even those with dementia, can offer insight and perspective that younger generations sometimes struggle to find. A grandmother, for example, may still have a unique ability to nurture and care for her grandchildren in ways that younger parents may never fully understand, not because of the absence of memory but because of the fullness of her life experience. There's something so deeply reassuring about realizing that even in the face of forgetfulness, some of the greatest gifts we've acquired throughout life, our ability to love, to teach, to comfort, remain often undiminished. For many elderly individuals, even after dementia symptoms appear, their wisdom continues to shine through. This fact can bring so much comfort to families, who often feel lost or afraid when a loved one starts showing signs of dementia. If we can all recognize this, we might find it easier to offer compassion and patience, allowing our elderly loved ones to continue living with dignity and purpose, rather than shutting them off because of misunderstandings. But there's a darker side to this, one that we must face with urgency and caution. As vulnerable as dementia can make someone, it also makes them incredibly susceptible to exploitation. Scammers prey on the elderly, often targeting those with cognitive decline because they know these individuals may not remember past interactions or be able to connect the dots between new and old information. For example, a dementia patient may still have the ability to comprehend a situation, but their memory may fail them when it comes to retaining specific details or recognizing patterns. This opens the door for unscrupulous individuals to exploit their vulnerability. Imagine a dementia patient being told by a scammer, "Your house is full of termites. If you don't fix it now, everything will be destroyed." The patient, remembering their own home, may agree without realizing the real situation. Perhaps the house is fine, or the problem isn't as severe as claimed. The scammer knows how to play on their fears and make them feel like they have no choice but to sign a contract or agree to an unnecessary service. It's a cruel, heartbreaking manipulation, taking advantage of someone who can no longer rely on their memory to distinguish between the present and past truths. This is why we need to protect our elderly loved ones, not just emotionally but also financially and intellectually. Encouraging them to keep books, engage with broadcasts, and continue learning in whatever way they can. Whether it's through hobbies, socializing, or mental exercises, becomes so critical. They may forget some things, yes, but their wisdom, their core understanding of the world, remains a powerful tool in navigating the challenges they face. This is the beauty of aging. The new abilities that come with each passing year, even as some old ones fade. If we embrace this fact, we can help our elderly family members maintain their dignity, their independence, and ultimately, their happiness. 6 essential habits for a healthy 80s. First, exercise just enough so your body doesn't get tired. Exercise is vital for maintaining good health, but it's so important to approach it with balance and mindfulness. When you push yourself too hard, when the heavy breaths start coming faster and more labored, it's a clear sign that you're asking too much from your body. That's when your heart starts racing, your blood pressure spikes, and your body begins to produce something called active oxygen. This excess oxygen, while a natural part of breathing, can be harmful. When it's in overdrive, it begins to damage cells, increasing the risk of diseases like cancer. It's not just about how much effort you put in, it's about how your body responds. Overexercising doesn't just take a toll on your internal systems, but also on your muscles, joints, and bones. The constant strain can lead to aches and injuries, making movement difficult, and ultimately weakening the very muscles you're trying to strengthen. It's heartbreaking to think about how a well-intended workout routine could leave you feeling more vulnerable, less mobile, and even in more pain. Our bodies are not machines that can endlessly perform under stress. They need care, patience, and respect. Exercising just enough, without pushing past your limits, protects you from these harms and preserves your overall well-being. Sometimes we get so caught up in the idea of pushing through or going harder that we forget the importance of listening to our bodies. It's okay to exercise moderately, to stop before you're gasping for breath, to avoid that painful, damaging excess. True strength comes from knowing when to stop, when to rest, and when to give yourself the grace to be gentle. So, make sure you're moving in a way that feels sustainable, not harmful. Your body will thank you for it in the long run. Second, review your medications. The phrase, "you don't need to take medicine," isn't just a paradoxical statement. It's an eye-opening truth that so many doctors seem to overlook, especially as we age. I know this from personal experience and countless conversations with others who have walked this path. Yes, medications can help alleviate symptoms, but the hard truth is that they don't always do what we hope they will, particularly when it comes to extending our lives. The idea that a pill can add more years to our lives is comforting, but it's not always the reality. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment below to let me know that you are still here with me. It's not about saying no to medications entirely. Of course, there are times when they're necessary. But if you're over 80, it's time to pause and truly question whether every medication prescribed to you is truly serving your well-being. Just because your test results look bad on paper doesn't automatically mean you should jump on a medication. Doctors often push for pills based on numbers that don't always reflect your actual quality of life. I urge you not to get too tangled in the idea of normal values that doctors throw at you. These charts, these figures, they may not capture what you are feeling in your body. Take a step back and ask yourself, do I need this medication to feel like myself? Am I taking it because it's helping, or am I simply taking it because it's been prescribed? In my journey, I've learned that sometimes less is more. Sometimes, our bodies just need time, rest, and the right balance, not an overwhelming list of pills. The goal should be to take only as much medicine as is necessary to allow you to live your life with dignity and energy. If a medication makes you feel worse instead of better, don't suffer through it. Don't be afraid to listen to your body, and don't let anyone guilt you into staying on a prescription that's no longer serving you. It's your body, your health, and ultimately, your life. Take control of it. Third, evaluate your relationships. As you get older, it's essential to reflect deeply on the quality of your relationships. Don't waste your precious time and energy on people who drain you, hurt you, or bring negativity into your life. By the time you hit your 30s and 40s, you should have already learned the value of protecting your peace, and by your 50s and beyond, this becomes even more critical. It's liberating to know that, with age, you can naturally distance yourself from unpleasant or toxic individuals without guilt. It's almost like shedding a heavy weight, realizing you no longer need to tolerate negativity or forced connections. The truth is, by the time you're in your later years, life becomes too short to invest in anything or anyone that doesn't bring you joy, support, or genuine companionship. As you grow older, the desire to meet new people and engage socially tends to wane. You may find that it's not so much that you don't want to be around others, but that the effort required to make new connections or keep up with old ones becomes more burdensome. This is especially true as your physical and emotional energy changes with age. Men, in particular, often experience this shift more acutely, as a decline in male hormones like testosterone can create a noticeable decrease in motivation for socializing. I've personally seen it in older men around me, where once they were active, engaging, and eager to meet people, now they seem content to keep to themselves, retreating more into solitude. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just the natural progression of life. When you reach your 70s and 80s, this need for socializing becomes even more complex. Social interaction is vital for maintaining good mental and physical health, especially as we age. Human connection helps fight the isolation that can creep in and prevent the mental fog and depression that often accompany aging. But the key is balance. Too much socializing can feel like an overwhelming chore, a stressor rather than a relief. I've watched older friends and family members struggle with the pressure to maintain regular social engagements, only to find it draining. Sometimes, the energy it takes to keep up with certain people can outstrip the joy it once brought. And that's okay. It's perfectly acceptable to take a step back and focus only on relationships that feel uplifting, enriching, and stress-free. The good news is that you don't have to sever ties with the world entirely. In today's digital age, you can still interact, share, and connect without ever leaving your home. Engage in online communities, share your thoughts and opinions in forums, or join hobby-related groups where you can exchange ideas and knowledge with like-minded people. The beauty of modern technology is that it offers a space to remain socially connected without the pressure of face-to-face meetings. In the end, the goal should always be peace. Free yourself from the obligation of forced social interactions. Prioritize the people who truly matter, the ones who respect your time and energy and bring positivity into your life. Surround yourself with individuals who support you, uplift you, and understand that the best relationships are those that nurture your well-being, not drain it. Life is too precious to settle for anything less. Fourth, don't strive to be a bad, elderly person. It's so easy to get caught up in the idea of being good, of doing what others expect, of putting on a facade that aligns with society's narrow view of what aging should look like. But I believe this pursuit can harm your well-being. It's heartbreaking when I see older individuals, in their 70s and 80s, trying to be someone they're not, trying to please everyone but themselves. For years, you've lived in consideration of others' judgments, suppressing your desires to keep the peace, to avoid causing waves. But this constant self-restraint, this constant trying to be good, wears you down. It eats away at your health, your joy, and your vitality. It's as if you're holding in all your emotions, your wishes, and your dreams, just to maintain some image of what an acceptable older person should be. And the toll it takes over time, physically, emotionally, and mentally, is real. After decades of doing what's expected, of keeping quiet when you want to shout, of pushing through exhaustion because you feel it's the right thing to do, it can lead to a breaking point. You're not a teenager anymore, and the things that you could bounce back from in youth, those mental and physical challenges, become much harder to bear. You've already lived a lifetime, faced hardships, dealt with loss, and sacrificed so much for the sake of others. You've earned the right to be true to yourself. Why continue the charade when you're in your later years? I truly believe that if you allow yourself to live authentically, Without fear of being judged, life becomes so much lighter and so much more fulfilling. If, for once, you can smile and call yourself a bad elderly person, not because you're harming, but because you're finally living the way you choose, I think you'll be amazed at how much easier life feels. When you stop pretending, when you stop conforming to everyone's expectations, you make space for real joy. The people around you will see this transformation, they will understand, and most importantly, they will respect you even more for it. Life doesn't have to be a struggle. Let it be easier. Let it be yours. Fifth, eat the food you want as much as you like. So many of us, especially as we age, feel guilty about indulging in the foods we love. There's this constant pressure to reduce portion sizes, cut out sweets and salty snacks, and avoid fatty foods. We've been taught to see these foods as the bad guys, the culprits behind obesity and deteriorating health. We hear over and over that salt, sugar, and fat are the three major evils, and they become almost universal in their negative connotations. But is that truly the whole story? I can't help but think that there's more to it than just the common narrative. The truth is that our bodies are far more complex and wise than we often give them credit for. Craving certain foods might be a sign that your body is asking for them. Yes, aging does bring with it changes in our metabolism and organ functions, but that doesn't mean that everything your body asks for should be ignored or rejected. Take sodium, for instance. We all know that sodium is necessary for survival, yet as we get older, our kidneys lose the ability to efficiently store sodium, leading to a deficiency. Over time, as our kidney function declines, we may start to feel an overwhelming desire to consume more salty foods. It's not because we're bad or lacking self-control. It's because our bodies are trying to maintain balance. The aging process weakens our body's ability to store sodium, and when sodium is low, the body instinctively craves it. The result? A desire for salty snacks. It's not just a habit, it's a necessity. And let's not forget how many times studies have shown that people who are a little fuller, with a bit more body fat, tend to live longer. Having some extra weight can be a sign that your body is in a better place than you think. It's your body's way of telling you that you're doing well, and it's sending signals to your brain to eat. I understand that moderation is important. Excessive salt intake or being overweight in your later years can cause problems. But here's where I think we need to challenge the conventional wisdom. When you're in your 70s or 80s, it's time to stop adhering so rigidly to those rules about what's healthy and what's not. Constantly restricting yourself from eating what you want might do more harm than good. Depriving yourself could shorten your life, as it could lead to nutritional deficiencies that accelerate aging. I'm not saying we should overeat or indulge recklessly, but if you're craving something, it's probably your body's way of telling you that you need it. Trust that your body knows what it's doing. It has served you well for all these years, and it's still working hard to take care of you. This idea of listening to your body, especially as you age, is vital. Our bodies are incredibly well designed, far more so than we often give them credit for. And when you truly listen to those hunger pangs or cravings, you're tuning into a natural rhythm that has existed for thousands of years. Don't be afraid to indulge every once in a while. In fact, by not indulging, you might be hindering your body's ability to thrive. We often forget how much our bodies are still capable of at advanced ages, and this internal wisdom is something we should respect and honor. By the way, let's talk about hyponatremia for a moment, which is a low-sodium condition that can lead to confusion or even seizures. Imagine an elderly driver who's been driving safely for years, but suddenly has an accident, driving the wrong way or veering off the road. Could it be that their low sodium levels caused them to lose consciousness or made them feel disoriented? It's possible. And that's why it's so important to make sure you're getting enough sodium, especially as you age. So, take that extra pinch of salt when you feel the urge, and enjoy the foods that bring you comfort. They might just be the key to living a healthier, longer life. Trust in your body. It knows exactly what it needs. Sixth, Don't leave property to your children. As we age, particularly as we approach our 80s, the weight of final preparations often starts to settle in, and it's a burden that many of us cannot escape. It's a deeply personal, emotional matter, one that stirs up anxieties and uncertainties about the future, especially when it comes to financial matters and family dynamics. I've had countless conversations with people who are grappling with this very issue, and each time, I feel the gravity of their concerns. Family structures and financial situations vary so dramatically that it's almost impossible to offer a one-size-fits-all answer. Yet, if I could give a single piece of advice, something that feels both right and just, it would be this. Don't worry about leaving your property or wealth to your children. Instead, focus on using the money you've worked so hard to save to secure your peace of mind in your final years. I know how hard it can be to come to terms with this, especially if you've spent your life dreaming of leaving something behind for your children. But the truth is, peace of mind and a sense of independence in your final years can be more valuable than any inheritance. If you're fortunate enough to have money left when you reach this stage, use it for yourself. If you can afford to, consider moving into a high-quality, luxury nursing facility that offers everything you need to live comfortably. And for those who want to remain at home, the best option may be hiring a caregiver. It's not just about the convenience. It's about the dignity of staying in the place you've called home, surrounded by familiar things, and still receiving the care you deserve. Of course, hiring a caregiver isn't cheap. Around $5 million a month adds up quickly to $60 million a year and a staggering $600 million for 10 years. It's a large sum, but if you have the means, it's an expense well worth the price. In the end, the comfort of staying at home with professional help, rather than burdening your children or forcing them into difficult situations, can bring immense peace to both you and your loved ones. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. When it comes to inheritance, however, I'm firm in my belief. Do not leave money to your children. I understand how this can sound harsh, especially in cultures where family legacy and the passing on of wealth are so deeply ingrained. But think of it this way: you've lived a life, your life. Why not spend the wealth you've accumulated to ensure your final years are spent in the way that brings you the most peace, rather than worrying about leaving something behind for someone else? I've seen people who, in the end, invest heavily in elaborate graves and memorials, thinking they're leaving behind something meaningful for their children. But who truly benefits from that? What if your children bring their children, or worse, what if no one visits at all, and the grave becomes a neglected, forgotten space, just another spot in a vast cemetery? The cycle of neglect continues, and all those sacrifices made during your lifetime seem almost for nothing. Instead, I recommend that you think about ways to help future generations in a more meaningful and lasting way, such as through charitable donations to local governments or organizations that directly benefit your community or causes you care about. Imagine your resources helping build something tangible that will support others long after you're gone. This kind of contribution can offer a much deeper sense of fulfillment than passing down material wealth. In rural areas, I also suggest considering your neighbors when thinking about caring for your aging parents. If you have family in the countryside, don't think of it as a distant, disconnected place. Rather, it's a chance to strengthen community ties. Ask your neighbors to keep an eye on your parents, perhaps with a small token of gratitude. I've found that when you approach this delicately, even if they initially decline, the gesture of care is often appreciated. They might refuse money, but the kindness in your request will be enough to ensure they look out for your family, giving you a sense of peace. It's a small expenditure, but it speaks volumes. It's far more cost-effective than uprooting your parents and bringing them to the city, or worse, quitting your work to care for them. This doesn't mean everything can or should be solved with money, but it does serve as a meaningful way to express gratitude for those who are caring for the people you love. It formalizes your appreciation in a tangible way, which can make a big difference in fostering goodwill and securing help when you're not there to personally oversee it. And finally, if you feel the need to leave something for your children, do so while you're still healthy and able to have a say in how it's spent. Don't wait until you're gone and your intentions are misunderstood or misdirected. Entrust them with the responsibility to use the money well, but do it while you're still around to guide them. Ultimately, remember that your financial security and peace of mind should come first. You've worked so hard to accumulate what you have. Don't let it go to waste on unfulfilled obligations or misconceptions about what your family expects from you. Take control of your future and protect the assets you've spent a lifetime earning, using them to live your final years with the peace, comfort, and dignity you deserve. So, what have we learned today? We've discussed how to approach the final stage of life in a way that's not just financially responsible, but also emotionally fulfilling. The core message is simple yet profound. Don't focus on leaving a legacy of wealth, but instead, use what you've saved to live with dignity and peace in your final years. Whether it's staying in the comfort of your home with the help of a caregiver or supporting future generations in more meaningful ways, your well-being should be your priority. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you've learned from this video that you plan to put into practice in your own life? Please leave a comment below and share your thoughts. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you content that matters. Your support means the world to us. Thank you for watching, and take care.